To get started, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. My name is Nancy Russo, and I'm co-leader of Fly Female Founders, along with my fellow leaders who are here today, Carol, Laura, and then absent today are Felicia, Laurel, and Sweta. For those new to Fly Female Founders, we're an educational nonprofit focused on helping women build successful businesses run by a volunteer leadership team. We curate usually in real life and now virtual events that help our community learn and grow as we advance our businesses together. We're about inspiration, education, and connection. We were founded in 2015 and now have a 1,000 person and growing community of small business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, consultants, freelancers, and side hustlers from a broad range of industry sectors who are primarily based in New York City. Upcoming on September 30th, we have Why Do You Need a Genuine Personality Brand with Danielle Hughes, who is also on today. And now I'm going to hand things over to my co-host at Luminary, Sarabi, who will tell us a little bit about Luminary.
Good morning. My name is Surabhi. I'm Luminary's Chief Impact Officer, and really excited to have such wonderful partners with our pals at Fly Female Founders. Both of us serve this mission of wanting women to succeed in whatever it is that they're doing. And one of the ways that we do that at Luminary is to host hundreds of online virtual events. We also have a physical space in New York City. And really the goal is for us to support and advance women in the workplace, whether your workplace is as a solopreneur, whether your workplace is as an entrepreneur running a small business, or whether you're working in corporate, or whether you're looking to find your next gig. So we are super excited for this conversation with Jerry, who we've partnered with before and is one of our digital members. So we're really excited about that. And to hear how we navigate some of the things you need to know to be a certified business. So I'm going to turn it over back to Nancy right after I tell you that at the end of the session, my colleague Janelle will be here and we'll do a little networking, because one of the things that we know, especially in this COVID time, is that it's hard to meet people, especially people who aren't already in your circle. And so stick around for the end. We'll do some breakouts, and we hope you'll meet someone new, maybe somebody you can partner with or move through the certification process together. So with that, back to you.
Thanks, Surabhi. So I'd like to introduce Jerry. I'm very excited about this talk. This is, I think, the third time we have done this. The first time I heard Keisha speak, who I went back and instantly, from being inspired by her, applied to become a certified woman-owned business. And I just think it's a great talk. You will get so much information. I will say take notes, but I will also let you know that we will be giving you the recording, so if you need to play something back. So Jerry, I'll let you take it away.
Terrific. I'm Jerry Stengel. My company is Ventuneer, and I help entrepreneurs succeed. And we do it in three different ways: research, training, and content. I'm probably best known for doing the State of Women-Owned Businesses for American Express, and writing about the success factors of women entrepreneurs in Forbes. I've had the privilege of writing about Stephanie, who you'll hear from in a moment, and Heatel. I guess what has been fascinating to me about writing and watching the impact of COVID-19 on women entrepreneurs is to see supplier diversity programs move to the back burner initially, and then to the front burner with Black Lives Matter. So it's been fascinating to watch the emphasis increase or decrease and increase depending upon what's going on in the marketplace. So the point of this discussion is to grow your business with companies or organizations that will spend billions of dollars with you. So I just want to go through the panel and ask them to do quick introductions of who they are before we get into the details of their organization and what they do.
Jerry,
So,
may I interrupt for 1 second? I just want to
yeah.
remind everyone to stay muted. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. We'll be moderating that. Thank you.
Terrific, terrific. So Dinah Scholl, if you can introduce yourself.
Happy to. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dinah Shell Gross, tuning in from Brooklyn, my home office here. And my son is running around, so excuse me if he interrupts at some point. I'm a deputy commissioner with the New York City Department of Small Business Services. We are part of the citywide oversight team to manage the MWBE program, and my portfolio includes MWBE certification and capacity building services.
Terrific. Keisha, if you would introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Keisha Blake Harp. I am the executive director for the Women's President's Educational Organization. We are responsible for certifying women-owned businesses in the state of New York, Southern Connecticut, and Northern and Central New Jersey. We also have presence in DC, Maryland, and Virginia area as partners with the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. In addition to providing private sector women's business certification, we also provide supportive educational programming, opportunities for you to engage with our corporate members, and of course with our public sector partners, with the SBA, with organizations like Dinah Shell's New York City Small Business Services, as well as the state of New York's MWBE certification program as well. Our mission really is to make sure we ignite your spark as a woman's business owner. We want to make sure that you use your women's business certification as actively as possible to not only connect with our corporate members, but also with the other women business owners in our network. So thank you very much for the invitation. Look forward to our conversation.
Terrific. So Hetal, if you can introduce yourself and also mention all the different certifications that you have.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you so much for having me here today. And Jerry, we may go over time if I list all the certifications.
So I don't mean the technical ones, the ones that help you do business development.
Thank you, Jerry, for that. My name is Hetal Parikh. I'm the president and co-founder of Rangam Consultants, where empathy drives innovation every single day. And what we have a passion around is helping talent get to work, whether if they're remote or on-site, safely in today's uncertainties and today's unprecedented times and events that we're experiencing. We are, as I mentioned, we are extremely passionate about connecting talent to work for their abilities and for their availabilities, and really honing in on their skills, creating an inclusive culture in the workplace, and creating an environment and setting up the right environment so that individuals and talent can bring their true authentic self to work. So I heard someone mention on the call today that there might be their young son running around in the video. And that is what we're all about today. How do we hone in on our abilities and our skills and really help organizations to innovate and create that efficiency and productivity that is much needed in the globalized world today. So thank you, Jerry, for having me on this show. And I'm excited to share our experiences and our background and all the different certifications and the great value that it has brought to not just myself as a personal individual and professionally have grown, but even for our organization. I am WeBank certified, WOSB certified, WeConnect, I'm also affiliated with WeConnect. And
so WeConnect is the global corporate certification organization and is very connected to WeBank.
That's correct, that's correct. Thank you for clarifying that. And we are a woman-owned, minority-owned business, and also certified by the Disability In, and that is the DOBE certification.
Terrific. Stephanie, if you would introduce yourself, talk a little bit about all the certifications that you have, and then mention, since you have done research about the benefits of supplier diversity programs, if you could just highlight the research you've done.
Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. I am the founder of a modernized market research company called Hootology. Modernizing market research basically means taking the information gathering process to make large strategic decisions from the Mad Men era to the Real Housewives era. So getting rid of old stale focus groups, old stale boring surveys, and finding ways to incorporate technology and psychology to make that process more meaningful and then therefore more actionable. My name is Stephanie Francis. About 5 years ago, I did the very deep spiritual 5-minute online ordination process to marry 2 of my friends who I had set up on a blind date. And what you may not know from this very, very complex 5-minute process is you get to choose your ordination title. And so with a last name like Francis, I couldn't pass up Pope. So I have a certificate proving I am indeed Pope Francis. You can call me Stephanie, Pope, whatever you want, or just F and Steph, which works as well. We are certified through WeBank and part of the chapter, Keisha's chapter here in New York City. Very proud. I feel like Keisha runs the best chapter in the country. And also with the NGLCC, which is the equivalent for the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. And as Jerry mentioned, my company, when we first got certified through both the NGLCC and WeBank, we're really just trying to get to know the supplier diversity professionals, which are the representatives from all of the corporations, all of the Fortune 500 corporations plus others, and just having casual conversation. And because we're research and measurement nerds, you know, we saw a difference between, you know, what we saw and what we heard. And what we heard was that some of the supplier diversity folks were having a hard time, you know, being able to increase their budget and grow and being seen as a collaborator with marketing and being able to be seen by the C-suite. But what we saw was how hard they were working month after month. I mean, these folks work incredibly hard to vet all of us and the diverse-owned businesses to recommend internally who to do business with. And so when we saw that discrepancy, again, we weren't trying to start research. We weren't looking for opportunities. I just, you know, my nerdy cocktail party conversation was, well, how are you showing your impact? And we got one of 3 answers. We got, well, we're tracking our spend, we're tracking our awards, or we're doing economic impact studies, all of which are great. You know, these folks are working hard, they deserve awards, but it's a pretty myopic impact when you look at, you know, kind of how corporations value themselves. Increasing spend is fantastic for all of us because it means, we all know that means that they're doing more business with diverse-owned businesses, but that spend going up is inversely correlated with what most corporations are trying to do. And then of course, economic impact is looking external to your corporation. And so, you know, I was like, no, how are you really measuring your impact on the bottom line, improving the business case? And that's when we realized there wasn't something being done. So we created that. It's called the Supplier Diversity Impact Indicator, and the top 4 points that I'll share today, we're in year 3, is that awareness of supplier diversity among consumers in the US is at 4% today, which seems low, but it's not discouraging because our whole goal was to look at the impact of that 4%. And what we learned is that once people are aware of a corporation's supplier diversity initiative, they're significantly more likely to purchase products and services from those corporations. So in aggregate, across all of the different industries that we looked at, once people are aware of a supplier diversity initiative, 70% purchase that brand's products and services, compared to only 30% who are unaware. So we're sitting on gold here, and it's just a matter of using information to be able to help corporations drive their strategy internally, being taken more seriously with marketing, and being able to justify the impact on the bottom line to the C-suite. Great to meet you all.
Terrific. So Dinah Shaw, New York City is pretty aggressive in its commitment to minority and women entrepreneurs. If you can talk a little bit about the history behind that and the progress that the city is making with its goals.
Happy to, and please let me know if the audio isn't sufficient. I'm going to try to talk over some subway noise. But the city's MWBE program is mature public policy in the city of New York. The program was first established in the early 90s during the Dinkins administration. He created an executive order and then rules that created the MWBE program. And women of all genders have been eligible for the MWBE program, of all races, ethnicities, have been eligible for the MWBE program since its inception. So if you look in our online directory of certified firms, which now includes about 10,000 certified businesses, the only businesses that are MWBE certified are businesses owned by women of color, and businesses owned by white women are WBE certified in the city of New York, and then there are MBE certified businesses that are owned where the primary owner is male. Right now, women-owned businesses, both WBE certified and MWBE certified, are about 55% of our certified pool, so a little bit more than half. And the goals for the city's contracting with women varies by industry category. So there are 4 kind of large buckets of procurement categories that the city of New York kind of categorizes its contract purchases into. So those are professional services, standard services, goods, and construction. And the goals for purchasing from women-owned businesses in all of those categories ranges from around 25% to more than 36%. The 36% goal is for the professional services category. And in addition, Mayor de Blasio has created administrative policy and through executive orders directed agencies to work to attain 30% contracting overall with MWBE businesses, and that's happening through a variety of mechanisms, such as the new MWBE non-competitive method. So when I started with SBS in 2016, the discretionary purchasing threshold for New York was $20,000, which meant that was the maximum size of a contract in which the city could enter into, with minimum kind of process. And in 2018, we got authority from the state to increase that threshold to $150,000, and again last January to $500,000. So now a city agency can enter into a contract with a certified firm with very limited process, so much more efficiently if that contract is $500,000 or under. And that's really a tool that we're using to ensure that by the end of this fiscal year, we hit the goal of awarding 30% of contracts to minority and women-owned businesses. Last year, we achieved more than $1 billion in the program for the first time, and women of all races are winning those contracts. And so I want to express again that this is mature policy. There's a robust compliance mechanism to ensure that agencies are actually driving business toward those firms, and in addition, robust capacity building and supports within SBS to help businesses that are new to certification understand who in the city is buying what you sell, if anyone is buying what you sell, how to reach them, how to make them aware of your firm and your capabilities, your capacities, and to be ready for the opportunities when they come your way.
Terrific. So Keisha, can you give us a little bit of background on WPEO, and how your organization helps open doors to large corporations, and talk a little bit about the products and services that are bought by these large corporations?
Of course. So the WPEO is a regional partner for a national organization commonly referred to as WBENC, so Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Our primary focus in certifying women business owners on behalf of WBENC, WPEO manages that process for women business owners that are headquartered in, as I said earlier, the state of New York, northern and central New Jersey, and southern Connecticut. We administer we process a national certification. So we have a regional presence, but the certification that you receive is actually a national certification. So it gives you access to opportunities with organizations, say, Toyota is headquartered in California. If you have a product or service that you believe will solve an issue or be the best possible product for a company, a Fortune 500 company that's headquartered in California, as well as a company that's headquartered here in the New York, let's call it the New York metro area, that is a certification that is appropriate for you. Consumer goods. So for example, just building on what Stephanie mentioned, WeBank has a program called the Women Owned Logo Program. So if you have a product like cookies, for example, and you know that you always wanted these cookies to either be present in Starbucks or Target or your local supermarket, Stop and Shop. I'm based in Connecticut, so we have just Stop and Shops here. There are incentives for you to have that women-owned logo on that actual product. So we have tons of white papers that prove that women, when, you know, or consumers will make that decision based on, you know, I like these cookies, I've always liked them, but if I like them the same as another one, I'll go with the one with the women-owned logo. So for that reason, you know, Target or companies like Target are incentivized to say, okay, well, let's support this. In addition, there are real dollar amounts. So Stop and Shop will waive your shelving fee. I don't know if everyone on this call is familiar. If you actually have a product that you would like to be in a supermarket, it's very difficult for you starting out as a cookie company to then have to pay the shelving fee, in addition to saying, oh, I'm so excited that I got my product in the supermarket. So there's small, real financial benefits to having this certification. You know, corporations buy everything, and I know that it sounds a little silly, but if you provide staffing or consulting, or even if you have a very niche business like training for consumers in the C-suite, or, you know, a few years ago we certified a company that did ergonomic training, and I was like, what is that? And why would you get certified? I had no idea, but you know, a few weeks later, I actually got a request from a corporate member. They said that this was something that was important and an incentive that they wanted to provide to their C-suite. So we made the introduction. So it really, I think when you're making the decision to get WeBank certified, you really have to look at who your target audience is. What product or service do you produce or manufacture, et cetera? And is there a problem that you can solve for your potential client? Always look at, you know, never take it from the mindset to say, well, I'm going to get certified. It's immediately going to open the doors and I'll automatically secure the business. It has to fit into your strategic plan for your business. So if you've exhausted every single possible network, every possible connection, you've used your connections from Harvard Business School, or even, you know, your kids' soccer team, and you're trying to knock on the door, you know, try certification. We do provide real purposeful networking matchmakers and opportunities for you to connect with your potential client. So I always encourage anyone who's considering getting certified to look at the list of potential corporations. And also, on a personal level, I think we have such a strong network in the New York region. There are almost 1,500, well, actually, no, over 1,500 certified women business owners in this network, from a varying, you know, there are women who make under $1 million, but last year we had someone within our network that who's certified with us that reported making over $10 billion in revenue. So think about being strategic, think about doing strategic partnerships, and think about larger companies, women-owned businesses that are committed to our network, committed to the philosophy of supporting other women business owners, and trying to think laterally about building your business.
And one more thing, Keisha, if you can talk about how you coordinate with the SBA on certification that can open doors to federal contracts.
Absolutely. So we also process the woman-owned small business certification on behalf of the SBA. We have on a national level a very good relationship with the SBA, and it's a service that we provide at no additional charge to our WBEs to process that certification. So when making the decision about getting that particular certification, of course, just full disclosure, the woman-owned small business certification is a certification that you can self-certify, and you can, at no additional charge. But the rules are changing, and as of next month, there's a very specific list of businesses that are allowed to self-certify. Most of the companies that want to do business with the federal government will have to certify through us or another third-party certifier is what we're referred to. So if, for example, you have a product that, like, you provide cybersecurity services and you've always dreamed of doing business with the Pentagon, it is in your best interest to get the woman-owned small business certification. If you know, for example, that, so MetLife, for example, has large contracts with the federal government, and they're always searching for women-owned small business certified companies so that you can function as a subcontractor to the federal government. Like I said, always look at who the end client is, and that most likely is a certification that you will need. I will share in the chat a link for you to do some research to find out about the set-aside programs that are available with the SBA, and we always provide updates to see which programs are available. But it is in your best interest to do the research, find out who your end client is. We like it if you process a certification through us so that it makes it easier for you. There are very few opportunities within the MWBE certification world where you can consolidate things. So if you have any more questions about it, happy to answer.
Terrific. So Hital, can you talk a little bit about how being certified has helped you win corporate contracts?
Absolutely, Jerry. I mean, this is a very near and dear topic for me because I feel we have definitely been able to benefit from the certification and being engaged. And one of the things that I love to share with the audience here is getting certified, as Keisha mentioned, it's not the only thing. The actual certification and the platform that you get, it's the network that you're developing and creating for yourself for many reasons and many purposes, for personal education and personal growth as an individual. I still remember 20 years ago, I felt like a young teenage girl walking into this industry and starting my business and working on trying to make connections and building relationship. I really didn't know what that meant. What does that mean? And socially, we're all women. We're socially very good at making friends and having that social network. But when it comes to business, we become very tactical in that approach. And what this organization really did was really put me in the room and in a circle of other women that think and they're like-minded like myself. So we learn from each other. They become your advisory board. They become your extension of your whatever it is that you're going through in terms of your business, whether if it's some challenges, some growth opportunity. But more than that, I would say in the past couple of years, it is really taking advantage of all the opportunity that the organization offers to you. You can consider this, and what we have done unknowingly just through passion, I feel that it has become part of our business development and our marketing initiative, where we leverage all the different opportunities that are offered, whether if it is participating in a pitch competition every year. I mean, just imagine you can have a room full of 300 plus corporations listening to your pitch and who you are and what you do, and they've got you have their dedicated attention, which is phenomenal. It's an incredible opportunity. It's not about the end game of winning. It's about the steps that you take during the process and the efforts that you're putting in. It really ends up creating an energy of force that ends up having that result that you're looking for in terms of what it is that your mission is and what it is that your organization's purpose is. So knowing about your organization's purpose, knowing about who you are, what you want to provide as a services to the corporations or the community, it becomes critically important. Telling your story becomes critically important. These are some of the things that I would say that I have learned and grown over the years as a technical individual. I mean, I have an engineering background in computer science and electrical engineering. I'm very boring, right? So you always, your mind is always thinking in terms of process, and you're getting right down to the actual tactical things that you talk about. There are many people who are born entrepreneurs, and there are many people who have that innate ability to be able to tell stories. But then there are many of us who are technically sound who may not be able to have that that inborn in you. And so this network that was created through this organization over the years, and really going out there, participating, making friends. And that is something that I think I learned over the years. It's not about selling, it's about building relationships and making friends. Because let's face it, as you always hear, right, that people like to buy from people that they know and that they connect with. And so when you take that approach, you naturally start to see some areas of movement and advancement within for yourself as a personal individual, as well as for your business. Jerry, I hope I kind of covered most of what you were looking for. But I will, just one last thing I think I will say is that the certification in itself has really elevated and accelerated our growth over the years. I have been the WPO star. Our organization has earned many awards and recognition for the work that we do. And we're extremely proud about that. I think at the end of the day, when you're starting your business and you're running a business, that is what you're looking for, right? It's how you can grow professionally and how you can advance your organization.
Terrific. So I love that you highlighted the importance of peer support, and through whether it's New York City or WPEO, it's an opportunity to meet other women. And that opportunity is, of course, that you can get feedback and advice, but it's also an opportunity to meet women that you may team with on projects. And then the other thing Hital talked about was purpose. So 25 years ago when I started my business, really purpose was not something you would have talked about to a large business. It is extraordinary to me, or even to the city. So I think it is both important to government as well as to corporations, that you be mission aligned, and that is only growing over time. So Stephanie, if you also can talk about how certification has helped you win contracts.
We got really lucky in terms of the supplier diversity research that I had mentioned. I remember when Jerry and I were talking a few months ago, you know, she said, what was your strategy when you first got certified? And I gave an answer that I think all of the corporate supplier diversity professionals would take a sigh of relief, but might be a little bit discouraging to a newly certified WBE, which was, I didn't try at all. And I know that seems like the wrong answer from a strategic business aspect, but similar to Hital, when she mentioned, you know, just making friends, we were just trying to get to know the structure and the system. And as we step back and kind of looked at it, it might be like the qualitative researcher in me, right? Just step back and look at this situation, I mean, the structure of supplier diversity. We were able to see how so many certified businesses, and, you know, I only had witness to the NGLTC and WeBank, were just constantly approaching the supplier diversity professionals just with a hard sell constantly. You know, we'd be at the bar and they'd coming up and want to talk about their cookies to get on the shelf. And Keisha, I want that cookie company really, really bad, because explaining what professional services is to us sometimes can be a little bit challenging, where people understand cookies on a shelf. But we saw how hard people were working just to sell. And in a certain moment, it's just take a deep breath and be yourself. And that authenticity is going to connect over time. And, you know, we were told not to call ourselves Hootology because it had a reference to fun. And people said you shouldn't combine fun and business. Well, we did it anyways. People tell me all the time I shouldn't wear the things I wear. I shouldn't say the things I say. But the more authentic that you are, the more it's going to develop their relationship and over time. So for us, it was really just taking a sense of the landscape and then following up on other business development that we were doing outside of supplier diversity. And so we had an inroad with a Fortune 50 tech company, and then when we got certified, we went and found that particular person, that representative from that Fortune 50 tech company, and then that helped elevate the process and expedite the process, and we ended up winning an ongoing contract with that particular company. But we had done the work outside, but if not for supplier diversity, that's what kind of fueled it to go a lot faster and get through. So being able to come with what you're doing externally and other types of companies of that size that you've worked with will really help kind of soften the relationship and allow for a true connection. The other thing that has been really crucial, and I say to everybody, and it's really, really hard to do when you get to, you know, a conference, and I believe we'll all be at conferences at one point, one day again, you know, there's over 700 corporations that are connected to WeBank. And I see a lot of folks go up to every single one of those people and just sort of like, you know, giving their pitch, their generic pitch. And I always say, pick five that you really want to do business with, and learn everything that's publicly available about those five. And then you are going to stand out just because you come into the conversation really trying to connect and you understand their business versus forcing the corporate supplier diversity person to understand your business. And that will help expedite that relationship as well. And the last thing I'll say is similar to Hitel, is the interconnectivity of supplier diversity is amazing. We, as Hootology, seek out our attorney is diverse owned, our bookkeeper is diverse owned, our insurance provider, on and on and on and on. And so a lot of times there's such a focus on the corporate contracts, and we're missing the connection that we have with each other that is also business and revenue producing. And so if I had one wish, it would be for all of us to have a little bit more of a strategic approach of how we approach the corporates and really focus on each other as we scaled our businesses up to know that we're ready to do business with a large corporation, because it's unique, and they know it's unique, and they're looking for those people who can communicate that.
Terrific, Stephanie. And I love a couple of the points that you made, which is dial back the hard sell. So I'm on a marketplace provided by a large corporation, and every time I post an article from Forbes on their platform, I get somebody who wants to connect with me, and before we even build a relationship, they've asked me, how can we collaborate? I don't even know you. Why would I collaborate with you? So again, you know, dial back the hard sell. It's not just if you're going to be coordinating and working with me, but it's also with the large corporation. And I love the additional point Stephanie made about meeting other women that you might also be doing business with. So you might meet a bookkeeper, you might meet, I'm trying to think, a lawyer. There are many different relationships where you could be doing business with them, and you could also be partnering. So, Dinah,
we have a couple of questions. We have a couple of questions.
Yep, go ahead.
One related
That's
to
relevant, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Keisha mentioned that you can self-certify or certify through WPO. Could you clarify the difference with self-certification and certifying through you?
So So the Women-Owned Small Business Certification is the federal government's women's business certification. Every entity has their own certification. So like Dinah Shell, New York City Small Business Services, of course you can do business with the city of New York. You know, you don't have to be certified, but there are certain incentives and benefits, as we discussed earlier, as was mentioned earlier, the benefits of meeting a certain goal to hire from a certain percentage of diverse certified businesses. So the federal government, for example, has specific programs that are available to you as a certified woman-owned small businesses. They have specific set-asides. They have a specific list. I'm going to share the SBA's website so you can find out if your company fits in that category. Also, this self-certification is going to be, for a number of years, you have been able to just go directly to the SBA and self-certify. They've recently changed their requirements, and they're encouraging most companies, it seems to me, to go to a third-party certifier. So we administer their process. You submit your application to us. They've given us their standards, and my certification team goes through your application and make that determination if you meet the SBA's criteria for their certification. There are differences. We only process your women-owned small business certification for the SBA if you are applying for the WBENC certification. So that's quote unquote the catch. There's no additional fee for it. It's just when you go onto our website, log on, and it says, are you applying for the WBENC certification as well as the woman-owned small business certification? You click both boxes. There's a decision tree that you have to go through. Essentially, if most of our requirements are the same, if your company has an ESOP, or if your company is not directly held by 51% or more women, the SBA's criteria, and you have to work a specific number of hours in your business to meet the SBA's criteria for their certification. WBENC has a few differences as far as eligibility. So oftentimes, you'll be approved for the WBENC certification, and then you might get denied for the WOSB certification. We have more discretion when it comes to the WBENC certification, but we have to very strictly, black and white, apply the SBA's standards.
And can you tell the difference between a WOB and a WOSB certification?
I don't think there's a WOB certification. It's a women-owned small business certification you'll hear commonly used, or WBE certification, which is Women's Business Enterprise. Those are the two acronyms in our world that you'll hear quite often. And so for the SBA, I did see someone mention in the chat about citizenship. So for the SBA certification, they require that you are a U.S. citizen. We don't have the same criteria for WBENC certification. You can have a permanent residency card or U.S. citizenship.
And can you tell everyone?
You could be either a citizen or a permanent resident for the city of New York.
Could you tell, when you do speak about the different certifications, Jerry, could you tell what the fees are that are associated with them as well?
So, Keisha, I'll ask you to talk about, because I don't know the fees for you. I do know the fees for the city, and it's free. But I don't remember off the top of my head what the fee is for WBENC. But I will say that
because it's tiered, I think that probably is better.
Okay, Keisha, why don't you talk about the fee? Yeah.
So our tiered structure. So we recently changed our whole certification fee. So if for some reason you moved from the city of New York and you decided you wanted to be in Texas, so then your application would be processed by a different RPO. The fees are all the same nationwide. So if you make under $1 million, the fee is $350. If it's between $1 and $5 million, the fee is $500. between 5 to 10 million, it's $750. And 10 to 50 million, it's $1,000, and then 50 million and above, it's 15. So it really does, not 15, I apologize, 1250. So it really, and as a, just to emphasize, we recertify you. It's an annual recertification. Part of the reason we have that is, it's a reminder that we have to do the due diligence for our corporate members. So you have less requirements every year. You don't have to do a site visit every year. That's just the initial year. You do it every 3 years. But it's, we always get this question, why do you have to do a recertification every year? Our certification process is, and our standards are created by our corporate members and by women business owners. So it's many years of negotiations to land on this criteria and requirements.
And could you also just, Jerry, talk about, someone put in the chat about the cost of SAM certification, which shouldn't cost you anything?
Yeah, so registering on SAM is free. It's sam.gov. You have to be registered there to move forward with any government project. It used to be through SAM that you would self-certify. So I have had a federal contract several years ago, and it was on SAM that I went through. Really, all I had to do was check a box and say I was 51% woman-owned. It was very, very easy. What I will say is I got my WOSB certification through WeBank. It was a very painless, easy process because really Keisha's team took care of it. So I would recommend that if you are WeBank certified to, at that moment in time, check the additional box of getting WOSB certified. And again, for me, it was a very easy process. Okay, other questions or move on to? Okay, great. So Dinah Shell, yep, go ahead, Keisha.
Oh, well, you're gonna talk to Dinah Shell. So I mentioned earlier that we have agreements with New York City Small Business Services, as well as Empire State Development, which is in New York State's certification process. And what has been great and great partnership with New York City Small Business Services is that we have a fast track program. So we're really trying our best to not only work with the SB to process that certification. We don't process New York City's certification, but we have a relationship for fast track, and we actively encourage our WBEs to apply for New York City's WBE certification.
Great. So Dinah Shell, if you can talk a little bit about sort of the support throughout the process of becoming certified. So let's say I'm not certified. How does the city support you in becoming certified? What kinds of training does the city provide to understand how to go after contracts and be successful? And then what kinds of business development opportunities does the city provide?
Here we are. Let me begin with support for the certification process. So as I mentioned, our program is laid out in the law, and what we are doing is a robust review to ensure that every firm that has the label WBE or MWBE is actually owned, majority owned, operated, and controlled by an eligible individual. So if it's WBE certification, that there's a woman who invested in that firm, is liable for the debts, is benefiting from the revenues or reinvesting them in the business, and has day-to-day control of the operations of that business. And everything in the certification application is designed to allow us to do that review and have a strong record of having done that review. Because unlike the private certifications, for the most part, government entities are not supposed to condition any services or any contracting or race and gender. These MWBE programs, like affirmative action programs, are an exception in public policy to a prohibition against conditioning services on race and gender. And the reason we have that exception is because we perform a disparity study, and it shows that there is a gap between the presence of these firms in the market and their desire to contract with the city and their actual participation in that contracting. So we can narrowly tailor a program to address that gap. But the program has to be narrowly tailored in its design and also in its operation. And that means every firm that we review, we need to ask you a series of questions to understand your eligibility. And then we need to ask you to document, to provide some documentation that your responses to those questions are true and complete. So it's a show and tell process is how I describe the online application. We're going to ask you to describe every owner of your firm and their percentage of ownership, to tell us about the operations, where you are, what equipment you own, about and then to share information that allows us to document that. Your organizational documents, financial control documents, documents that allow us to review your past experience, if you have past experience. And on the basis of all of that, we'll have a record that allows us to know that we are allowing only eligible firms into the program, and to represent you to potential government buyers for what you do well and who you are. The online application is available at sbsconnect.nyc.gov, and I'll put that in the chat. And we've done a lot over the years to streamline that application, make it very user-friendly, to build in helpful links into the process. It is meant to be self-serve, so you could tackle it today. And once you begin the application, it's not going to expire. You can take as long to work through it as you want. But we are also providing webinars about our certification process every Wednesday, and we alternate between the morning and the afternoon, and you can drop into any one. I'll also put a link to our Eventbrite page so that you can register for one of those if you like. But it's absolutely possible to get through the application on your own and then use the support links that are built into the application to ask questions if you have them. And then once you submit the application, it takes us 6 to 8 weeks to complete the review, and you'll be certified. If you come to us on our standard application, which means you're directly sharing all of your answers with us through that application and all of your supporting documentation with us, you can be certified for 5 years. And if you come to us on a fast track application, which means you applied to a partner like Keisha's organization, and then you checked in a box that said, please also share my application with SBS so I can pursue NYC certification. And then we trust our partner because we know their process, and we do a review of the components of your application that are distinct, but we rely on their underlying decision that you are WBE. And for that purpose, if you come in on a fast track from any of our partners, you are certified with us for the same period that you're certified with the partner. So you can come to us on a fast track from WeBank, Repo, and be certified for a year, and then either choose to recertify that with them and then recertify with us on that basis, or you could decide at that point to apply to us on the standard application and gain certification for 5 years. And once you're part of our certified pool, we're continuing the business education, some like deep mentorship programs, cohort-based mentorship programs that we're now delivering on a distance learning model, focused on doing business with specific types of agencies, for construction firms, for goods and services firms, but also regular workshops on, what does it mean to insure your business, to do business with the city of New York? The insurance requirements may be different, so how do you understand those? How do you access affordable financing to allow you to meet the upfront costs, perhaps, of performing on a city contract? We don't want mobilization costs to be a barrier, so we're providing those products and then services to connect you to those products. And technical assistance. When you are bidding on a city contract or responding to a proposal for the first time, we understand that's a real commitment of time. It can be intimidating. We want you to be confident that your response is correct and you're considering all of the costs that may be unique to doing business with the city. So you can get up to 3 sessions with a technical our technical assistance program just focused on that RFP response to be sure that you're submitting in the right information in the right way to be considered for that contract. And we are also helping firms connect with one another through networking events, and connect with city buyers through networking events with those agencies. So once you're part of our MWBE family, I mean, we accomplish a lot through email marketing, and I know that email management, it can be a real issue. I think some people get into the program and then there's this flood of stuff coming their way from us about programming, from agencies with inquiries, but it's worth managing because firms that do engage with the process do grow through doing business with the City of New York. And I would encourage all of you to check out our online application, sbsconnect.nyc.gov, and also review our online directory, which is nyc.gov/certified, and see the other businesses that are WBE certified and that are competing and winning work with the City of New York. And then I saw a question about the form of ownership. Yes, sole proprietors are eligible. You do not need to be an LLC or a corporation. Businesses with many types of corporate structures or organizational structures are eligible for the program.
Terrific. So Dinah Scholl really talked about this really quickly, so I just want to emphasize that the city does connect you to financing options for its contracts. So should you be worried about being able to pay for certain upfront costs, the city does have relationships with, I think, primarily CDFIs, community development financial institutions, and the rates, interest rates are very affordable. So I would highly recommend asking about those when you do get contracts. So Keisha, if you can talk a little bit about some of the business development opportunities. I know it's a little bit hard now that we're all online, but the way that you brought, let's say, your brown bag sessions online, and if maybe you're going to have your Christmas event, your conferences, how are you handling, sort of the networking opportunities?
So thankfully last fall, I started doing hybrid in-person and virtual events. So I think quite a few people on this call have been into our very tiny conference room in our Midtown Manhattan offices. So one of my favorite programs is our brown bag lunches. Well, we'll bring someone in from our corporations to talk about their supplier diversity program and how you can connect with this particular company. So because we cover such a large geographic area, and the real purpose of the brown bag lunch is just to be educational, informational sessions. So we would have 2 representatives from Con Edison Supplier Diversity team would come in and say, we're Con Edison, this is how we like to do business. Here's some information about our supplier diversity program. I always strongly encourage them to bring in a buyer. It's sometimes not successful, but it's great to have someone who says, well, I'm responsible for purchasing professional services. This is what it means. Here's how to connect with me. Here's how to connect with me if you are already a supplier in our supply chain. Here's how to connect with me if you're new to this work. So we had a pretty large screen, and we had people joining us virtually as well. So now that since March, we've been doing all of our programming virtually. So we have a program called Lunchtime with the Experts. It's a 1-hour program every Tuesday, and we bring in different types of experts. What we've done is, instead of just having representatives from our corporations talk about their supply diversity program, we have experts from within our network come in and talk about, initially in early March and April, talk about resources that could help you resolve immediate needs in your business. So we had someone in our network come in and talk about business interruption insurance. Some people had it, they didn't know they had it, they didn't know what it was, right? So then that was great to have a certified woman-owned business come in and talk about that. We had Jerry come in and moderate a panel about alternative sources for funding. Because, you know, sometimes we just, you know, a lot of business owners were frozen during this period and didn't know what steps to do. So we had different types of people come in and talk about how to communicate with your client during times of crisis. It's not really just so much focused on this particular COVID situation, but a lot of people didn't know how to engage with their clients, if it was appropriate to sell. You know, sometimes the supplier diversity teams are laid off, they're on furlough. So that's information that we could share, you know, we shared with our network. So every Tuesday we had we have someone come in. Yesterday,
So actually, Keisha, I'm going to interrupt just because time is running out, and I just want to make sure that we get into a lightning round. So, so if I've cut you off and you didn't give a tip, I'm going to give you a lightning round. So I want to leave time for more questions from the audience. So if everybody can give some tips for success or lessons learned, whichever category you want to do. Hitel, I'm going to start with you. So go ahead.
Thanks, Jerry. Key to success, I would say there's 3 key things that I think about personally: people, passion, and possibility. Keeping people in mind. When you think about people, what does that mean? Whether if it's corporate, whether if it's team members, whether if it's a coworker, or even in a family member, listening, understanding. And that is where, you know, Rangam's philosophy is empathy drives innovation. Really being empathetic, especially in today's world where we're all working virtually, that becomes critically important philosophy to follow, where when you put yourself in the other person's shoes and you're listening to them, you're going to be able to find that problematic items that you may feel that you might have the right solution. So that is the people part of it. Passion around what you do and who you serve and what is your expertise, your knowledge, your background. Being that true advisor to the corporate partners, being able to show your vulnerable side becomes true critical part of your key to success and growth. And possibilities. I always say that possibilities are endless when you bring your vulnerable side to the table, or where you open up and you look at what is in your journey and in your path. Is there a partnership that is possible? A partnership that you can form that can help you to grow your business? Is it something that you can look at to say, I need to create a balance in my life in terms of what it is that I really want to hone in on. Creating that type of an environment and being able to invest. One of the biggest thing I would say is willingness to invest, providing market intel that you hold to your corporate partners, and knowing when to stop hard sell and listening. I'm going to go back to listening, because when you listen to your corporate partners or anybody that you're connecting with, you will know exactly, they may not have an opportunity for you today, but if you're staying in touch with them and you're providing them with the market intel and you're demonstrating that you are the expert in the industry, when time comes, they will remember you. But that persuasiveness and persistence is the biggest key to success.
Terrific, terrific. So I just want really tight answers, just because I want to leave time for questions from the audience. So lessons learned or tips for success, Stephanie?
Be yourself, work your ass off, get certified, and don't complain about it. There's a reason why the process is challenging, because there's a lot of people trying to pass off as diverse-owned businesses who are not. So I always joke that it was easier for me to become certified as gay than certified as a woman. But that's because Keisha's team has to work that hard to be sure that this is a protected group and really is supporting the people who really fall in the category. So thank you, Keisha, and thank you everybody in the supplier diversity world.
Terrific. Dinah, any lessons learned or tips for the audience?
Yeah, I would say, the information that you put on your certification application isn't just important to the review for eligibility. It is what is going to inform your profile to market yourself to potential buyers. And so you've got to manage it like the incredible marketing tool that it is. I can't tell you how many times we pull a list of MWBEs to share with an agency for a contract opportunity, and the website link is broken, right? They had a plan to build it, but they never built it, and it's just spinning. And I'm like, you're a marketing firm with with a broken website link, or typos in your business description? Or we see firms that have grown through city contracting and earned successively larger contracts, but have never updated the experience section of their profile. So you look like the firm that just began in the program, when in fact you're much more mature firm, and you could manage contracts of much higher values at this point. So please manage the information in your profiles. Make sure it is that you're providing contacts for your firm that are going to monitor those emails, that if those folks leave, that you're updating those contacts so that you can be reached, that your profile, your business description includes search terms that are common. So if folks are searching those business descriptions, they're actually coming up with your capabilities, that your codes are right, and that your contract experience is up to date. Manage those profiles.
Terrific. And quickly, Keisha, if you can talk about any tips for success.
I love Dynashell, so I'm going to steal a little bit. Please check if you're already certified, please check your profile in WeBank Link, because I do the sourcing, and yeah, I mirror a lot of those frustrations. Also, very importantly, once you get certified, or even before you get certified, come up with a strategy of how you're going to use the certification and see it really as a tool. We realize that the supplier diversity people don't buy anything, so it's best to view them as part of your business development and sales staff. So you have to teach them who you are and what you do. It's just part of changing your mindset. So have the appropriate mindset, be extremely strategic on how you're going to use this network. Both Stephanie and Hedl are great examples of working the network and building those relationships. So again, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And I would always recommend saying in your strategic plan, number one, figure out how you're going to build those relationships of trust.
Terrific. Excellent. So Nancy, I'm going to turn it back to you for questions.
Okay, I just want to mention also that when you're certified by Keisha and her wonderful group, you then can register in the portals of these corporations that are partners, and that way you can be found. And that is really, really important to getting seen. Because if you have someone like myself who's a one-person business, you don't have a sales force, you don't have someone, coming to do something for you. And I think that's very important.
And I'm going to add to that, here's the rub, is registering in those portals is very time consuming. And yes, so Stephanie did thumbs down, I'm a thumbs down on it. So really, I'm going to circle back to Stephanie's advice of picking 5 firms that you're going to build deep relationships. And in speaking with Hitel, I think she would echo the same sentiment, is you can't be everything to all people. Really focus on the companies or the government agencies that are most likely to buy your goods and services. So back to you, Nancy.
Great. Does anyone have any questions? I think I've read all the ones that are already in the chat. Nobody?
I have a quick question for Keisha.
Okay.
So if you are outside the New York area, do you have a network of other companies that certify? Or, because I'm in the DC metro area, so I'm just curious if I would still reach out to you to get someone from your network, or how that works.
I can connect you with the regional partner that processes companies that are headquartered in your area. It just so happens that WPEO has an office in the DC area, but we are the only regional partner of WeBank that has 2 offices. So you still would end up not necessarily talking to my team, but I can send you that connection. And just for everyone on the team, the WeBank certification is a national certification. The only your application just goes to whichever regional partner manages your geographic region. So if you are headquartered in Massachusetts, your application would go to the office in Boston that covers the New England region.
I have a question.
So actually, before we get to the question, I just want to expand with Dinah Shaw. If you can talk, Dinah Shaw, about if companies outside of the 5 boroughs are eligible for New York City contracts.
Yes, I just put this in the chat, but I'm happy to talk about it. Our eligibility is not limited to New York City-based firms. Our program rules are that you have to have a nexus with the New York City market. If you're located here, you clearly have a nexus based on that geography. Our market area is also defined as the 8 surrounding counties, so a little bit upstate, Long Island and New Jersey. But if you are doing business in the city of New York, or you're attempting to do business with the city of New York, that also creates a nexus. So once you have, one of the first steps you have to do as part of our online application is register for a vendor number with the city of New York. Just getting that vendor number, expressing to the city that you'd like to do business with them, creates a sufficient nexus to allow you to be certified. So where you're located is not a barrier for any business on this call today. If you're interested in doing business with the city of New York and you express that by getting a vendor number, regardless of where you're located, you may be eligible for MWBE certification.
And apologies to the person that I cut off, if you can
That's
raise
okay.
that question.
Thank you, Jerry. Stephanie, I have a question for you. Before you were talking and you said that you are part of Jerry's chapter, and I didn't know what that meant.
Oh, it was Keisha's chapter.
Keisha's chapter, sorry.
So Keisha, as Keisha just mentioned, WeBank is a national organization, and there's regional chapters, of which Keisha is in charge of the New York and DC one. Keisha, did I get that right?
So WeBank is a national organization. They've carved up the country into 14 regional partners. So there are 14 offices around the country that will accept your application. So when you go on the link to submit your application, it asks, where are you located? And then you click, say you click New York City, and then your application will pop up on my team's portal to process your application. Stephanie and Jerry and Hetal, quote unquote, belong to our chapter regional partners. So even though they have a national certification, because of where they're located geographically, most of their support will come from me or from my office. So if any of the services that Hetal, Jerry, or Stephanie provides, if a corporation says, oh, I'm looking for X service, and I'll do a search in WeBank link. But chances are, because I've interacted with them, I can give more in-depth information about each person. So that's the kind of support, educational support, connections with, government entities like Dinah Shell, et cetera. That's what we can provide.
And I'm located in Connecticut, and I'm part of Keisha's group as well. We have a few questions.
The whole area, tri-state area? No.
Yeah. We have some New Jersey in here too, I think. Yeah.
So we have New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York. So
we have another question, which is actually a bunch of questions, Jerry. What's the best place to start? What are the top 3 questions we should ask ourselves to know which certification makes the most sense for our individual business? And what's the first step after that?
So I'm going to probably ask you to do them one at a time for me. But
what is the best place to start?
The best place to start is really internally. Do you think that you can do business with New York City? And I didn't ask, Dinah Shell did touch on all the goods and services that the city sells, but I've attended enough training sessions to say just about everything that you're going to buy and sell, that you're selling, the city is buying. There are probably a few areas that it isn't, and the same with large corporations. So think through again and just again, I think everybody is saying focus, focus, focus. Either start with New York City first or start with WPO. They both have a relationship with each other that will make it easier when you want to certify with the next, with the other organization. And then the second question.
What are the top 3 questions we should ask ourselves to know which certification is the right one?
So I don't know that it's 3 questions, but I think I answered it. I think I answered it. Yeah.
And then I would say, as somebody who has gone through this process, with the exception of New York City, which I will now do, that you have to make sure that you have all your paperwork. But like New York, you don't have to have it all at once. So you can start the application for WeBank and say, oh crap, I need that too. And then, go get that. It used to be that you had to certify something, notarize things. Now they're waiving that during the time of COVID. But, just realize that it's going to take a while to apply to something. And just make sure that you make time, whether it's each week or each day, to put into that application process. We have any other questions? Oh, sorry, Jerry, you were going to say something.
So I was just thinking about another answer. So really, it's also about having the time to really work it. So you're not going to get contracts if you're not working it. People aren't going to come knocking on your door and saying, although I'm going to take that back a little bit. So the city does do outreach and say, and it will tell you, we have this RFP. If they think that you are likely to be able to submit a proposal, some of the agencies will reach out to you. But by and large, you've got to work the system and build relationships. It's not going to sort of come to you.
Right.
And
so we have. Go ahead.
So at WeBank, we actually have a quiz on the WeBank website, and we ask, is your product or service targeted to corporations, retail, or government agencies? We ask, does your business have the capacity to provide quality service or products on large contracts, right? Are you willing to share the details of your business? Because we do a deep dive, all the certifications do. But are you willing to share information about your tax returns, compensation, capital investments? That's important to be prepared to do. And are you clear that this certification is essentially a marketing tool and not a guarantee of business? So those are questions I think you should be prepared to consider before taking the next step into applying for certification.
We have another question here, which is, how long do you need to be in business to apply?
So Dinah, if you want to answer, and then Keisha.
The City of New York has a 1 year in business requirement for certification, but this is explicitly an aspect of the eligibility criteria on which we have some discretion. So say you've been practicing in your profession, but under the auspices of another business, and you've recently gone out on your own and established your own entity or working as a sole proprietor. We don't require in that instance that you've been on your own for a year. The time and experience that you gained practicing that work in another structure can be applied to that year in business requirement. So it's a year generally, but with some flexibility. And so if you're an individual with significant experience, that shouldn't be a barrier to applying before your first independent year has elapsed.
Keisha, if you can also answer that question.
We don't have a minimum, as long as you have your, your essential legal and financial documents. We don't have a minimum time in business. But to be fair, common sense plays in here. Even though we don't have that requirement, you have to be mindful of how you're presenting yourself to a potential client, and if you have that capacity to do business.
So we have a question here about someone still being unclear as to where to start. And is SAM a good place to start? No.
No. So SAM is federal. Yeah. Go ahead, Keisha.
So SAM is a system for award management for the federal government, right?
All right.
So, and I would do a big PSA for everyone. There are a lot of dubious people online that are trying to charge you a lot of money to go do the WOSB certification and do the SAM certification. And there is no SAM certification, pardon me, but you know, anyone that's charging you a lot of money, we recently had a WBE that paid $10,000 to do the because whoever it was gave them a great sales pitch to say, we'll help you with your WOSB certification and we'll definitely help you get all the government contracts. Yeah, it's not for you. But I'm going to share, as far as who to start with, I'm going to share the WeBank quiz, the decision tree. Maybe that will help get some guidance. But I would say focus on who your clients are first. And if you look at your list and it's, Pepsi and Diageo and I don't know, Pitney Bowes and PSE&G, or not even PSE&G, but any major Morgan Stanley, if those are your clients, then I would say start with us. If it's a company that does public and private stuff, I would say start with the city. If you know that, the mayor of the city of New York is your client, that office is your client, or Battery Park, start with the city of New York. It depends on where your reach is.
Jerry, if I may just quickly add a comment in there. What Keisha said is critically important. For our organization, we initially were an 8A company. We were certified by the federal government, but we were doing a lot of business in the private sector. And one of our clients actually told us to go and get our WeBank certification. And so we continuously progressed, only majority in the private sector than in the federal government area. So we decided to stay in that area most. And so it becomes critically important who your clients are and who's buying from where and who really could benefit from purchasing from you and the certifications you hold. So certification will not get you business, but certification is just an added, like a flag that's for the corporations to say, great, this is a great benefit to have.
So we have a
question. If I can I just give a,
please.
The New York City program, we're a government program. You pay my salary, right? These are your tax dollars at work. And so if you're not sure that you want to do business with the city of New York, but you want to explore it, or you want to have an experience with certification, I would say New York City is a fairly good place to start, because we have a robust team who will work with you through the certification process, and it's no cost. So you can experience what it's like to assemble those documents and put together an online directory profile. And there's not going to be time pressure, and some opportunities to learn may come out of it. So I think it's a good place to start because it's low cost and there are many supports for getting through the process, and every eligible business can join the program as of right. We're not actually being selective if you meet the eligibility criteria about who can join. We're not assessing, for example, whether or not you're actually you have the capacity, financial capacity to succeed in a contract. That happens at the proposal level in the city, but you can be in our online directory. You can be a New York City certified business and be fairly green, be fairly new, and use it as a learning opportunity. So I think it's a good place to start.
And I'll just chime in because I think we forgot to talk a little bit about this, is if you are putting your toe in the water, a good place to start might be as a partner organization to a larger women-owned business, so that you get to know the lay of the land and learn the ropes with somebody that has done it already. And that goes either for the city or for WeBank. So I know I do it with the city. I still haven't won a contract that way, but I have done it that way. And I know a lot of organizations that have done it with WeBank.
So we have a couple of Keisha questions, and then we really need to wrap things up. So a question for Keisha. Does your team provide guidance on companies that might most need our specific services? Basically, what 5 companies should we focus on?
You can email or call me. I'm happy to have that conversation with you, but we don't have a formal guidance. As far as when you're going through the process, we don't have the same, like Dynashell has a great team that probably holds your hand a lot more than my small team of 4. But I suspect she probably has more certified WBEs than we do. So I'm happy to talk to anyone about the process and, share it with my colleagues nationwide. But yeah, absolutely happy to talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to say we're going to call this. I want to thank everyone so much for coming. This, as usual, was unbelievably informative. We'll be sending the video. We'll be sending a recap with the links. And Janelle, did you want to say a few words wrapping up?
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, ladies. This was such an amazing conversation today and such a great way to start our mornings at Luminary. We really, really love having these Fly Female Founders conversations once a month. They're such an amazing part of our partnerships here at Luminary. And I would love to welcome all of you, if you're interested in learning more about us, to come and check out our open house, which we have virtually once a week now, every single Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're interested, we also have a great program today on sustainability and inclusive fashion, since it is Fashion Week and we're in this really chaotic new time in the world. Thank you all again for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, ladies. That was wonderful.
Seeing everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.